Welcome to the Super Subs with
Andrew.
and Harry, where we talk about anything and everything related to football. This week, we're going to be going over the 2022 World Cup so far. This is a part two. It's a continuation of an episode we had about 2 weeks ago, previewing the World Cup and the matches that have happened so far. A lot has happened since then. A lot of matches in the group stages, which Andrew and I talked about in our episode, What is the World Cup? So if you don't know what the group stages are, or if you're listening after the World Cup has already concluded, you can go back to our episode, I believe it's 3 pods ago or 4 pods ago, and learn more about the World Cup. But for today's episode, we're going to be going over the group stages and the final results from those stages, who progressed to the knockout stage or the round of 16. So that's 16 teams that progressed to that stage. And the knockout stage just means 16 teams, 8 pairs of teams that go against each other, and whoever wins each of those games progresses to the next round, which is the quarterfinals. So today is Tuesday, December 6th. We have literally just today finished our last knockout game, and the quarterfinals is decided. So we're going to be going over the next schedule of games today, as well as the past knockout games and the group stage so far. So before we dive in, though, Andrew, what are you drinking tonight? What's quenching your thirst?
Tonight, it is going to be a New Belgium Voodoo Ranger Juicy Haze IPA.
Ooh.
That is a mouthful. For those that don't know and are listening, I used to be a park ranger. So, naturally getting a beer with Ranger in it was a must. And it's not disappointing so far. It's definitely quenching the thirst. How about you, Harry?
Yeah, I'm going non-alcoholic tonight. I have a mango white tea from Honest Tea. Very delicious. Got some pulp in it, so it's actually natural. It's not artificially flavored.
Legit.
I know, but cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. And I feel like throughout the next episodes and our pod as we go month to month, we're hopefully one of these days we can do a compilation of all the beverages we've had on the pod, and then maybe do a bonus episode ranking the episode or the beers or beverages and things that we've liked so far. I think that would be a fun little bonus episode for the listeners that have been on the journey with us.
Oh, I definitely agree, especially as we get into the holidays and you're lining up for all those parties that you got going on.
Oh yeah. And it is the holidays for Andrew and myself. It's early December right now, and obviously a very weird time for the World Cup. And I don't think this is going to happen again. Maybe in history, it's never happened before, and this is the first time it's ever happened. But for all the listeners out there, including you that's listening to this podcast, hope you're having a great holiday season. Hope you're being able to spend time with loved ones, friends, and family, and being able to watch good football games. And with that, we're going to go right into our first topic, which is an overview on the results so far. So this includes the group stages. This includes any games that have happened in all of those groups before the round of 16 or knockout stages. So I'll give a very quick overview on what's happened so far in the groups. So starting with Group A, and I'll go in order, and I'll talk very quickly about who topped the groups, who made it to the round of 16, and then we'll go on to talk about maybe some specific matches, and then Andrew will take over for the knockout round. So for the group stages, and if you haven't listened to our episode on the World Cup, definitely head over there, but I'll give a quick overview on the group stages. To qualify for the round of 16, in the group stages, there's 4 teams in each group. To win the group, you have to win based on points, and you have to get as high as you can in the group based on points. Of course, we went over this: 3 points for a win, 1 point for a draw, 0 points for a loss. And you can draw or tie in the group stage, and you play each team in your group once, and that's how you get points. So the people that topped their groups, so got first and second place automatically qualify for the round of 16. Group A, Netherlands and Senegal. Group B, England and the US. Group C, Argentina and Poland. Group D was France and Australia. Group E was Japan and Spain. Group F was Morocco, who topped the group, and Croatia. Group G was Brazil and Switzerland, and Group H was Portugal and South Korea. Notably, Belgium did not qualify. Germany did not qualify. Denmark did not qualify out of their group. And actually, Andrew and I talked about Denmark being a dark horse. I guess dark horse they were meant to be because they faded into the night out of the group stages, so they never qualified. And also Wales, who was very closely predicted with the U.S. to take the second spot, did not qualify as well. And Ecuador, who looked good, unfortunately did not qualify. So there were a few teams that did not qualify that were ranked decently well, that were maybe expected to qualify or close to expected to qualify. So that's the group stages so far. So the 16 teams that I mentioned that placed first and second in each group went to the knockout rounds. And the group stages had the US and Iran, Wales, and England in one group. And Andrew and I actually attended the US-England game together in person. It was on Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving here in the US. And we actually interviewed some of our friends and some of the fellow fans that sat next to us during that game, before the game, at halftime, and then after the game. And we got their thoughts on how the U.S. would fare against England and what they thought the result would be. And after the game, we got their thoughts on a prediction and what they thought the U.S.-Iran game would bring. So before we go to the knockout games and before Andrew gives us an overview on the knockout round so far, we're going to hear some of those thoughts from fans and friends from the U.S.-England game and their predictions and what they had to say. All right, so we're here right before the USA-England game start off. It's going to start off in about 3 minutes. I'm here with Jose. Jose, how do you think this game's going to turn out?
I'm really hoping for a U.S. win. I'll settle for a tie. Just the U.S. has to be really disciplined. But we got this.
Nice, love it. All right, thank you, Jose.
My name is Kim. I'm from California. I am 37 years old. And my big hope for this game for the USA is that they look as good in this game as Ecuador looked against the Netherlands just now. Go USA.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Kim. All right, so Andrew and I are here 2 minutes before kickoff, or 1 minute before kickoff of the USA-England game. Andrew, what are your predictions? What are you hoping will happen?
My prediction is a 2-2 draw. I'm hoping for a strong performance out of our midfield, hoping we can stop the England attack and really push forward on the counterattack like we did with Wales. So feeling cautiously optimistic here today.
Love it, Andrew. I'm hoping for, at best case, 2-1 maybe, 3-2. But I'd be more than happy with a draw, and we'll see what happens. Let's go the boys. All right, I'm here with Will. It's halftime during the USA-England game. Will, give me your thoughts on the game so far, and what do you think the result or the scoreline is going to be?
I'm jazzed. It's going to be 1-1. We got to convert because I think we punched him in the mouth, which is good. A good halftime speech from England is going to have them come out, guns blazing. They're going to score first, and then we're going to equalize in like the 80th minute.
Big words, Will. All right, so we'll see how the game pans out. Second half, right now it's 0-0, England-USA. Will, what do you think about this USA-England game? Ended 0-0, just finished. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I'm down with the draw. I would have liked to see goals, just because I feel like I don't know how many rock fights we can continue to eke out, especially if we get to the knockout rounds, but I'll take it.
Love it, love it. All right, I've got Pedro and Roberto here today after the USA-England game ended 0-0. I'm going to get both of their thoughts on the game today. We'll start with Pedro. So what were your thoughts today on the game?
Well, after seeing the first England game with Iran, I thought that they were going to come out and pressure a lot. But when the game started, you could see that they actually respected the U.S. and they actually did not press a lot. They were waiting for the U.S. to come out, and that gave the U.S. a little bit more of a chance to say, oh, you know what, let's come out and see what happens. And it showed up with the chances that they had a goal. I believe that we should have deserved the win, but, football is football. So sometimes the goal goes in and sometimes it doesn't. So
amazing. Roberto, what are your thoughts?
I think the United States did an incredible job at playing their strategy. Like you saw them knocking the ball in the back, left and right for many seconds at a time to get their team, their forwards, their midfields right in the right place before they went on the attack. So it was very methodical. I think that England did a mistake in playing that conservative and not trying to run over the United States and doing that high pressure, high impact game. So they kind of fell into the game that the United States decided to impose and dictated the rhythm, really. So, I mean, the United States definitely deserved the win. They played way better than I expected, and I hope coming into a round, we come in with that confidence that if we could have beat England, which we should have, we can definitely take on Iran.
Pedro, Roberto, what chance of the game do you think we should have deserved a goal? Who do you think should have scored a goal for the U.S.?
For me, it was first half, McKinney, penalty. I mean, at the penalty spot. Cross from, I believe, I don't know if it was Dest. Oh, Wea. Yeah, Dest would send it back to Wea. Wea sent it to the middle. That was by himself, and he just didn't catch it at the right place. So,
Roberto, what about you?
I think that's it. It was McKinney, but I think that there are several plays with that structure, and again, going back to what the strategy is, they had a very strong playbook, and they executed amazing. Unlucky for us, the English had a good coverage in that middle, so that was the only very, very clear ones. The rest, they were intercepted, but they were extremely dangerous. Just a misstep or somebody slowing down, we would have had a clear shot on goal on those many cutbacks through the middle. So, I mean, if we keep on doing things like that, we'll find the creative aspect of it, and we'll get goals.
And what do you think, lastly, what do you think about our chances versus Iran on Tuesday? We need a win to go through for sure. What do you think about our chances?
I think that we have a pretty good chance of it. On paper, we should do pretty well against Iran. But every game is a different story. So let's see what happens. I think that we're going to get a win, at least a 3-0.
Roberto, what about you?
I think it's going to be tough. I think Iran is going to come in and pressure high. They're going to come with high intensity, leave everything on the field. If the United States sticks to their playbook and we get broken through, we may have to find a new, more creative format. And I don't know that we have that. I don't know if we have that creativity. We're good at this pre-planned strategy. If we break down, I don't know how we'll catch up. I think our chances are good. Iran would have to outpace themselves in order to beat the U.S. But if they do, we're in trouble.
Amazing. Thank you for both of your thoughts. Paul, what do you think? What do you think about the Iran game, and what do you think about today's game?
I think this game is massive for the U.S. If they were thinking about coming out of the group stage with a winning mentality, this tie represents a whole more than just a tie. I think if they're going to go out of the group stage and going to play teams like Netherlands or Ecuador or even past the quarterfinal, they have to come out with this winning mentality, thinking about they're going to face teams that are tougher than England. So I like what Roberto said about like how they methodically were. I will add on they have to be more creative in the final third. This is that the U.S. struggles for years. It's like, yeah, they're very structured, but so at some time you got to get that creativity of like an amazing skill that you can play a 1v1 and finish, kind of like what we did against Wales.
It's Wales, yeah. And if we advance in this group, so if we get second and England get first, we play usually. I think either France or Denmark will get first or second in the group that we play. What are our chances against France? What do you guys think?
Against France, so luckily for us and luckily for them, France has lost many of their starters due to injuries. Yesterday, I read that Hernandez is out. So even though they have really good subs, they're not as good as their starters. So, and the physical game that the U.S. plays, the pace that they're bringing into the games, I think we have pretty good chances against France.
Roberto, what do you think?
I want to be optimistic, but I think even with the second lineup of France, we struggle. They're physical, they're fast, they're technical, and they're creative. It's a very tough opponent.
And Paul, lastly, what do you think about a matchup against France?
That's a different story. You have to think about it from a different point of view. France is not England. France is not Netherlands. France is not Ecuador. So it's a team that could be very versatile. All the opponent's attacks can come from all flanks, right flank, left flank, middle flank. They had so many players that are so creative, and they're dangerous in the final third. So I think the basic scenario from the U.S. is to counter-press, a counter-attack, switch even formations, thinking about the game. And they've been pretty good at holding the score for so long. So maybe adjust the game plan, but thinking in a more methodical, like more of like in terms of closing spaces, especially like on the middle third and in the final third.
Well, thank you, Pedro, Roberto, Paul. Appreciate your thoughts, and hopefully we get a win against Iran on Tuesday. Thank you so much. All right, Andrew, we're walking out of the bar. Result was 0-0, U.S., England. Collecting our thoughts about an hour after the game ends. Andrew, what are your thoughts overall on that game?
I think we were just talking about it. I think that we were hoping for a draw, but, really, expecting a draw, hoping for a win, I should say. I think we had our shots. Weston McKennie definitely could have finished one. Pulisic had a great look, almost an upper 90 that could beat Pickford, but denied by the crossbar. I think we lagged a little bit. I think our subs could have come on a little earlier, Aronson and Gio Reyna. But overall, I'm pretty happy with it. How about you?
Yeah, Andrew, I think 0-0, either 0-0, 1-1, or 2-2. I was talking earlier in our last podcast about how a draw would have been actually a good result against England. And I think it's because England on paper are number 5 in the FIFA World Rankings. I think US are number 14 or somewhere in the mid-10s.
Yeah.
And
13, I think.
13, exactly. So I think US came out with the stronger result. I actually think, based on the stats and on the way that the US played the game, we actually deserved the win. Mm-hmm. We had more chances to score. We had a lot of balls into the box and a lot of exciting moments. Yeah. And to be honest, I'm happy with the draw, but I would be even happier with the win. I don't think we deserve to lose today, and I think that was the scoreline, 0-0. But if a goal went in, I would have been extremely happy with the U.S. But overall, I think with how the team are doing and the grit that they're showing and the way that they saw out the game, we can actually see a win against Iran. And I think we can actually get out of the group stages. But obviously this World Cup showed that anything can happen. Saudi Arabia can win against Argentina. Japan can win against Germany. So anything can happen. But I think we are favored to beat Iran on Tuesday. So hopefully we will beat Iran. Andrew, any closing thoughts before we play Iran on Tuesday?
I think we've got some good momentum going. I think that, if we can really put away these chances, I think we had a lot of great looks, especially down the left-hand side, getting the ball into swinging it in. And Tyler Adams was super impressive. So I think if we can be a little sharper on our finishing, I think we should have no problem against Iran.
Amazing. And I agree with the same thought. I think, like Tim Rowlandson said on the Q&A today or on the podcast yesterday, striker is absolutely our position that we need to improve on. I don't think we have an out-and-out striker. We have a few strikers that we've brought to the World Cup, Josh Sargent and a few other strikers. But I think our forwards need to be a lot more clinical in finishing. You saw today Weston McKennie did not finish that chance against England. And if another striker had that chance, first time crossing the box, they should be finishing that 1-0 for the U.S. So if we get a few more finishes, a few more chances into the box, I think we could be good against Iran. So overall, I think our chances are good. Hopefully Tuesday we'll see a good result against Iran. This is Harry and
Andrew
signing off for the Super Subs.
All right, so those were some thoughts from the fans that day at the U.S.-England game. You also heard a little bit of back and forth between Andrew and I after the game as we were walking back to the car. Andrew, this is a great time now to talk about the knockout round. So we've gotten through the group stage. We've gotten to hear some thoughts from people that were there that day at the U.S.-England game. We have our 16 teams. Now we have the knockout round that just happened. Andrew, walk us through the knockout round. What happened? What were some highlights? And what's top of mind for fans to think about in the knockout round?
Yeah, thanks, Harry. Knockout rounds were a doozy. We had some flat out thumpings. We had some shock upsets. We had some games go to penalties. It did not disappoint. I'm very pleased overall with how things ended up. We started off the knockouts on Saturday, December 3rd. It was early here on the West Coast. Unfortunately, Harry and I's USA men's national team lost to the Netherlands. Mm-hmm. We can maybe discuss this in a future episode and bring back our buddy Tim and, kind of do a look back on the World Cup. But honestly, the Netherlands were clinical, and I'm really happy and proud of the job that the U.S. men's team did to get out of the knockout round and, at least put a goal on the board in that game. Next up that day, we had Argentina and Australia. Argentina won 2-1. And, it almost felt a little tighter, than the score, than we might have originally thought, with Argentina being such a powerhouse. And sorry, I don't know if I mentioned it, but the Netherlands did beat the U.S. 3-1. So the score was 3-1.
Yep.
So yesterday, we had a morning game with Croatia and Japan. Unfortunately, after a tie of 1-1, after 90 minutes and then an additional 30 minutes of extra playing time, the game went to penalties. And unfortunately, Japan fell to Croatia. Croatia's form, they brought it home and ultimately brought down a Japanese team that really, I think, surprised a lot of us and really was such a nice, just a nice team to watch. They were just so fun, so energetic, and they really had a lot of great play.
And Andrew, why did that game go to penalties, and why weren't the teams able to tie or draw versus the group stage where you could?
Yeah, so because it is the knockout round, you need a winner at the end of each match. So we needed a winner in order to go on to the quarterfinals. So at the end of the game, after the end of the 90 minutes, you get two 15-minute halves of extra time. Okay. Whoever's ahead after those two 15 minutes will win. If there is still no leader at that point, it will go to penalty kicks where each team gets a best of 5, and if it goes past five shots, then it's really sudden death. So,
the drama.
Yep. Oh, so much drama. And then we rounded out yesterday with a Brazil routing of South Korea 4-1. It was a pretty clinical performance by Brazil. The Joga Bonito, as we discussed earlier, was alive and well. The play was beautiful. The dance moves were out in full swing. But I must say, the consolation South Korean goal at the end of the game was really quite something. It was amazing. It was a wonderful goal. Yeah. And then let's see. We also we've got France and Poland. So France really did a number on Poland. It was cool at the end of the game to see Robert Lewandowski in what was probably his last ever World Cup game, given his age. He got to score a penalty kick. The penalty kick originally was called back the first time because the goalkeeper left his line. We discussed that in a previous episode a little bit, but the goalkeeper left his line, moved forward, and stopped the ball, so he got to retake it. So France topped out that group. England pretty handily beat Senegal. Another really clinical match. Highlight of that was Jude Bellingham, young player, plays his club football at Borussia Dortmund, will be up for transfer next summer. There's a lot of talk already about all the big clubs lining up to sign him.
Yep.
And then today's matches were really quite exciting. We had a Morocco shock upset over Spain.
Wow.
That it was quite incredible. The Spanish team missed all of their penalty kicks, so the game was tied 0-0, went to two 15-minute halves of extra time, still no score. And the Moroccan team really put it all on the line, kind of sat the bus proverbially, sat back, gambled on it going to extra time and penalty kicks, and they came out victorious. And
you know what, Andrew? I heard a statistic somewhere that a penalty kick has a 73 or 77% chance of always going in the net.
Wow.
And the fact that Spain missed all three of theirs, one was off the post, I think were two saved. I think.
2 saved, yeah, I believe so, yeah.
2 saved. Just the fact that that happened, it's just statistically, it doesn't usually happen. So the fact that they didn't score any is just mind-boggling. And they're a Spain team who historically do well in a World Cup.
Yeah, they're a really interesting team because we have some of the old guard, some older players like Busquets and Alba, and then we have a lot of really young, talented players like Gavi and Pedri, guys that we'll hear about for years to come and have a lot left. So they'll be back in force next World Cup. And then we rounded out today with a Portugal win over Switzerland, 6-1. Portugal really put on a show. Big news there was that Cristiano Ronaldo was benched at the start of the game for some dissent of his coach at the end of the South Korean game. Was not happy to be subbed off. Let his coach have it. Coach said, you know what? You're starting the game on the bench. Coach took a gamble on a young guy, last name Ramos, who ended up scoring a hat trick. So
and an assist, 4 goal contributions.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah. What a gamble. So super exciting. Looking ahead, we've got a couple great matchups in the quarterfinals. So Harry, do you want to walk us through what happens next? Where are we headed?
So we've gone through the knockout stage. Andrew set it up so greatly with what he described in terms of the results and the round of 16. So we had 16 teams in the knockout stages. We are now down to 8 teams. There had to be a winner for each game, and now we are at the quarterfinals, which means there's only actually 4 more games in the quarterfinals, and then we go to 2 more games in the semifinals, and then we go to 1 game. That's the final of the World Cup. So the next games, I'll go in order, and then I'll talk about each of them a little bit, but not too much. We're actually going to get into more specifics about some of the teams that Andrew and I have thoughts on in the next section. But the next games for the quarterfinals, there's 4 games. There's England versus France, 2 big powerhouses in terms of world football. Morocco versus Portugal, and no one actually predicted Morocco would actually get this far. So it's actually I would say an amazing story that Morocco are just paving their way for their nation and for AFCON, the African Federation for football. And we have Netherlands versus Argentina, and that's going to be a huge match to watch because it's most likely Lionel Messi's last World Cup. And then we have Croatia versus Brazil against a very dominant Brazilian team. You saw pull out the tricks, skills, moves, not just on the football pitch, but with their hips and their dancing as well. So we'll maybe see a little bit of that, or maybe see a little heartbreak. Based on how the tournament's been going so far, upsets are absolutely in the cards. We've seen so many upsets from many teams, but based on the 8 teams that are left going into the quarterfinals, I would say this is a very strong 8. Besides Morocco being on the cards, no one would have predicted that, but I would say these 8 teams, if you were to tell someone 2 months ago that these 8 would be the last 8 teams in the quarterfinals, they would say, yeah, that probably makes sense. So from here on, let's go to the strongest team based on our own opinion so far. So this is me and Andrew's opinion on the strongest team that we've seen at the World Cup. This can, of course, change in the quarterfinals based on performance going forward. Andrew, let's hop over to you first. Who do you think, based on who you've seen out of all the teams play so far, is the strongest team?
This is a tough one. There are so many great teams and performing at so many, amazing levels, and it's really hard to narrow it down. But I think I'm going to have to go with Brazil. I think, when you look at their squad depth, I mean, it's pretty scary. I mean, a lot of people didn't predict, Richarlison to be starting up front over Gabriel Jesus, and unfortunately, Gabriel Jesus injured his knee and just had surgery actually recently. So, wishing him all the best. But they have such a deep line. I mean, they lost Neymar for a couple games of the knockout stages due to injury and had no real issues at all. They've really played really beautiful football. I think that's Joga Bonito at its finest, right? It's beautiful, flowing football. They just look like they're having a lot of fun. Whether it's the hip moving or the pecking dance or whatever Richarlison was doing with his coach on the sideline. Yep. They really look like a team that's really hitting stride. They've got a lot of great young players, like Vinicius Jr., and then a lot of players with some more wisdom, like Thiago Silva and Dani Alves in the back. Even their goalkeepers are impressive. I mean, when you have a competition between Ederson and Alisson, both who play their football in the English Premier League, I mean, that's pretty impressive. So I think I've just been really blown away with how they've been performing so far. Harry, give us your take.
I have to go the same direction as you, Andrew. I think Brazil have looked the best. Obviously, our predictions for who's winning it all may not match the strongest team that we think so far. For myself, it certainly didn't before the tournament started, but seeing this Brazilian team go through all their games, they actually didn't win all their games. They lost one group stage game, but seeing them dismantle South Korea, and I know it was heartbreaking for some of my friends to watch their nation get dismantled by Neymar, Vinicius Jr., etc., Casemiro holding it down in the middle. And this Brazilian team, what they have in skill is equally matched by what they have in just tenacity. I think based on if you saw the Brazil game versus South Korea, you would see whenever Brazil lose the ball, and this is a great insider tip for fans that are just coming into the sport and watching the World Cup or football or soccer for the first time or haven't watched it too much. When Brazil lost the ball, whether it was in South Korea's half, their own half, or somewhere in the middle of the field or the pitch, you could see just 3 or 4 Brazilian players swarming towards the ball. It was almost like they were pests and flies and mosquitoes just honing in on their prey and just hunting for that ball. All of them had instructions from their coach just to swarm the ball, not give the South Korean players any space or time to move on the ball. They would win it back and they just go on the counter again. And that's just not just the skill or the beauty of their play and their joy on the pitch or their dance celebrations. What Andrew brought up about the pigeon or the bird celebration, one of the goal scorers, Richarlison, he looks a little bit like a pigeon. So his whole team did a little bit of a pigeon dance and put their heads forward. Even the coach joined in, and it was hilarious. You can absolutely find it on YouTube or Twitter or Instagram.
Oh, some great GIFs and memes out there on Twitter.
Yep, his nickname is literally the pigeon. But beyond all of that, just their desire to win is immense. It's crazy. And so far, they are the only team to have played every single player in their squad so far in the World Cup. They've played all 26. And Andrew named some really good goalkeepers. So Alisson and Ederson are 2 top-notch goalkeepers. They play in England in the English Premier League for really top football clubs, Liverpool and Manchester City. But they also have a goalkeeper. Brazil also has a goalkeeper called Weverton, and he's one of the top, if not the top, goalkeeper in Serie A, which is the Italian top league for football as well in Italy. So they've just got a stacked team. So my strongest team, I think Brazil so far. Obviously, that can change if they get knocked out or if any other team goes forward further than them, but they definitely are my strongest team. So we'll go then into change in prediction to win it all. This is based on our first podcast describing the World Cup and leading into the World Cup. Andrew and I did some predictions on who would get first, second, third, fourth. We'll just talk about any changes in our prediction of the first place winner who's going to win the World Cup. Based on my romanticism and my wishful thinking and just what a magical Cinderella story it would be, I still am rooting for Argentina. My logic says no. My mind says it doesn't make any sense. Argentina don't look like the best team, certainly. They look like actually one of the weaker teams going into the quarterfinals. I'm just really rooting for Messi to bring it home and go all the way. And he has the enough X factor, I would say, to spur his team on to a win. But But I'll stop there, Andrew. What's your thoughts? What are your thoughts? Do you have any changes in your prediction from your previous prediction of who's going to win it all, or are you staying the same and staying the course?
I am staying the course. I am still picking Brazil to win it all.
There we go.
You know, I would love for Weverton to be transferred to Everton in the English Premier League. I think that would be sublime. But all that aside, I think Brazil definitely, in my mind, seem like the strongest team.
Yep.
And have continually showed it. There are a lot of other strong teams. Argentina, France is looking really scary as well. England on a good day. So I cannot wait for the quarterfinals and beyond. I think it's going to be hopefully exciting football. I think the World Cup has not let us down so far. I think that's one of the beauties of the World Cup is upsets, high scoring games, the drama. And, I absolutely cannot wait. So, Harry, let's talk about players. So we talked about teams a bit. So let's break it down. In your mind, who is the player of the tournament? And we could even go back to the team talk. Who's your player of the tournament and team of the tournament so far?
Yeah, so player of the tournament, I would have to give it to Kylian Mbappe. So Kylian Mbappe is a French player, for those of you just joining us. He plays for the French national team. He is more of a forward or a winger. He can play off usually the left wing, so the left side of the field or the pitch, or he's a forward where he drives into the box with a lot of pace and speed and just scores and gets around defenders like it's nothing. I think based on just him as a player and him as his own showing in this World Cup so far, some people go into the World Cup red hot and don't produce at the World Cup. Some players go in looking really not good before the World Cup for their club, and they somehow turn up and are really good for their country. Kylian Mbappe is one of those players that's a generational talent, and he's so good for his club, Paris Saint-Germain, who he plays for in the French league, the top league in France. But he's incredible for the French national team. And he's so far the top goal scorer in the World Cup with 5 goals. And he can make a goal out of nothing. He's the type of player that can take the ball at his feet, turn past 2 defenders and put it in the top right of the goal. He's the type of person that can give you that killer pass, the last pass, and assist someone that's in front of goal. And he can do it all. He can take the ball from France's half all the way to the goal and score if you need that. So I would say that's my player of the tournament so far. My team of the tournament, I would have to give it to Brazil. The way that they play, the way that they pass, they're not just good on the counter. They are good at holding the ball up, keeping the ball when they need to, playing a patient game, but then playing these incisive passes through the midfield. And as someone that's watching football and learning about the game, one thing you can learn is it's really, really, really tough to penetrate that midfield for any team against any other team. Usually you'll see teams try to work it down the right-hand side or the left-hand side, try to use that touch line as an imaginary wall so that no players can get the ball from them and just try to run as much as possible. What Brazil do is they're so patient and they just play quick passing. And there's something called one-touch passing where a player will use just one strike of the ball and pass it, and then the next player that receives it, instead of receiving the ball with one touch, they'll just play and pass the ball with their first strike of the ball. So you'll see bam, 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 and that's what Brazil do. They just know exactly where their teammate's going to be, and then they break open the defense beautifully. So I would have to give player of the tournament so far to Mbappe, and then team of the tournament so far to Brazil. Andrew, what are your thoughts? Who's your player of the tournament, and who's your team of the tournament?
I'm going to have to follow your lead with player of the tournament. It's got to be Kylian Mbappe.
Yep.
Like you said, 5 goals, very impressive. You know, he's kind of a once-in-a-generation talent. You know, I know we throw that word around a lot, but he is truly amazing, and he's only about, 22, I think?
He's young. He's so young.
He's very young, and like you said, he plays his club football in Ligue 1 in France. I would personally love to see him take it to that next level, play in La Liga in Spain, maybe come to the Premier League in England, really test his skill against some of the best teams. But, all of that aside, at the World Cup, he is far and away delivering. He can turn in tight areas. He can pass. Yeah. He's got the work ethic. I think, a lot of times we see, I'm not going to name names, but star players that don't want to run, don't want to put the work in. They want to be played the ball. Yep. He's willing to put in the ball, put in the work to get that ball up the line, get into the box, and create his own chances. So, absolutely phenomenal player. My team of the tournament so far. So I'm going to take this in a little bit of a different direction. My team of the tournament so far has been Morocco.
Andrew, tell me more.
Yeah, so I think it is so exciting to have an African team crack the quarterfinals. Yep. I mean, we haven't seen that in a long time. I think it really adds a nice flair to this quarterfinal matchup that features a lot of European and South American powerhouse teams. Typically when we think of the powerhouse teams, they're coming from those two conferences, those two continents, and it's amazing to see a team from North Africa make it this far. I mean, today alone, their performance was so gritty. I mean, against Spain. Spain is considered to be a very strong team and always has been. And they put up, a defensive display led by their goalkeeper, Bono, that frustrated the Spanish team, that fizzled all their chances. And ultimately, their gamble of really sitting back and frustrating Spain led to the opportunity to take it to penalty kicks. And they stayed so cool, so calm, so collected. If anyone out there watched even the final winning goal by Achraf Hakimi, who plays for Paris Saint-Germain with Kylian Mbappe, was just ice cold. He had ice in his veins. He did what's called a panenka. So for those that don't know, it's where you go up to the ball looking like you're going to smash the ball, but you end up putting just a little touch on the ball almost and sending it down, just dribbling down the center of the goal, basically.
Yeah.
Or even just, a simple chip, and totally faked out the goalkeeper. And it was absolutely incredible to see. And I really think a lot of the players, I haven't heard of before, but have been doing exceedingly well. And I've been especially impressed by Hakim Ziyech for that team. He plays his football for Chelsea in the English Premier League. And, he's been a bit spotty during his time at Chelsea. He'll get starts. He won't get starts. He can produce moments of magic. But like our friend said today, World Cup Ziyech is a different Ziyech. Morocco Ziyech is a different Ziyech. So it's guys like that are young and doing well that I think will have really bright and promising futures after the World Cup. And this stage is so cool because it really illuminates those players on these teams and puts them out there and really, skyrockets their careers. So very excited to see them in the quarterfinals, and I'm really hoping that they continue to impress.
Yeah.
So that kind of, thinking about the penalty kicks today, that makes me think of most entertaining moments and surprising moments. Harry, we've had a lot of drama. Can you think of anything in particular, any specific moments that really, kind of took your breath away?
Yeah, I'm going to have to, and I have some South Korean friends that probably won't like this, so I will redeem another match. I'll give two entertaining moments, so it kind of evens out. The first entertaining moment, or I would say entertaining maybe 30 minutes, is the first 30 minutes of Brazil versus South Korea. It was just a clinical display for Brazil against South Korea. And clinical just means when Brazil had their chances, when they were fizzing balls across the 18-yard box, which is the goalkeeper's box, when they were making passes, they were so precise and so just, it was almost elegant, beautiful football. And there's no other way to describe it. And you could see all players were in sync, from the goalkeeper to the back line to the midfield, all the way up to the wingers and the striker. And all of them just ran in tempo with each other, and they looked like such a strong team. Almost scary from a spectator's point of view for any team to go up against. So I would say that was an entertaining moment. Certainly, I think the first 2 or 3 goals came in the span of, 15, 20, 25 minutes.
Oh, really quick.
Maybe.
Rapid fire.
So
yeah.
rapid fire. And by then, I think there were already memes or posts on social media saying, make it stop, make it stop. So that was definitely an entertaining moment. I would say my second entertaining moment was South Korea beating Portugal 2-1 with pretty much a stoppage time. And for those of you that are just learning about stoppage time, this is time added on right after the 90 minutes to make up for any stop time for injuries or anything like the ball going out of play. And Hwang Hee-chan, I believe, was the goal scorer from Wolves. He's a South Korean striker from Wolves, has been a little bit injured and not completely in the best form of his life for Wolves, but he had a killer pass from Heung-min Son, who plays for the Tottenham Hotspurs in the English Premier League, and he's pretty much the talisman of the South Korean team, and he was actually injured. He had a face orbital eye socket injury right before the World Cup, and he made it back just in time to play those matches, and he played that beautiful, beautiful pass to the striker, Hee-chan, and he just slotted it home, and that was just an incredible moment because South Korea needed that one goal to qualify. That one goal because Uruguay beat Ghana 2-0, I believe. So they just needed one more goal for the win. And that was an amazing moment, very entertaining moment, and I think people screamed their lungs out as well. And I would say the most surprising moment for me during the tournament so far was Saudi Arabia beating Argentina 2-1. That was just, I think people were shocked around the world. People expected Argentina to steamroll everyone in the group, not just Saudi Arabia, but all the other countries in the group, Poland, etc. But Saudi Arabia put up an incredible fight and went on the counter and scored 2 goals and knocked Argentina off their feet. And Argentina are still in it. Saudi Arabia are out, so quality still lasts over the teams that are maybe ranked a little bit lower. But I think a moment like that happening at the World Cup is just what this World Cup is made for. So Andrew, let's kick it back to you. Tell me a little bit about the most entertaining moment or game or match so far for you, and then also the most surprising moment, one that took you definitely by surprise.
Yeah, so it's hard to narrow it down, right? I mean, you named a couple, and there are so many more moments that have just, really electrified us. I think, so I've got a couple actually, bear with me. So I think one of the most entertaining moments was when Cameroon actually beat Brazil in group play, and a player by the name of Vincent Aboubakar scored in essentially the extra time. It was 90 minutes plus 2, so there was a little bit of stoppage time. Scores this goal, ends up being the winner versus Brazil. He takes his shirt off, and he already has a yellow card. So for those that are listening and are not quite aware, but when you take your shirt off to celebrate, you will actually get a yellow card. So he already had a yellow card. Mm-hmm. He takes his shirt off to celebrate, and he gets a second yellow card. So he gets a red card. It's the last goal of the game-winning goal. It's not quite enough to get Cameroon to the knockout stages, but you got to hand it to him. It was a glorious moment. And even when the ref gave him the red, he knew what was happening. He smiled and patted the refs and the ref's shoulder, and that's what the World Cup's about, just those moments of glory. So sad Cameroon couldn't make it past, but it was a great moment for him. And I think Aboubakar didn't even realize they needed another goal to stay in it. And he took his shirt off just on instinct. And then he realized, he looked at the ref. He's like, oh no, I need another goal, but I'm being sent off. Yep, exactly. I think, so that leads to the other half of that group. So Cameroon and Brazil were in Group G. Mm-hmm. That last day that Cameroon and Brazil played, Serbia and Switzerland also played. And there was a battle going on between essentially all 3 teams, Cameroon, Serbia, and Switzerland, to try to claim that second spot in their group. Brazil had already clinched it. Mm-hmm. And the Serbia-Switzerland game was incredible. It was blow for blow. The Serbs were really taking it to the Swiss. Swiss were up for the challenge. The group was just so fluid. One team would score, the standings would change. Another team would score, standings would change. And so Switzerland ended up dominating and beating Serbia, moving on to the knockout phase, but ultimately losing to Portugal. And that is really similar to my last kind of most exciting, day, essentially, which was the end of Group E. Group E had Costa Rica, Germany, Spain, and Japan.
Oh.
So the last day, Thursday, December 1st, Japan beat Spain 2-1. And
Wow.
Germany beat Costa Rica 4-2. At one point, I don't know for how long, but at one point, Costa Rica was winning. And the scoreline was such that Costa Rica, if the scoreline stayed the same, would have knocked out both Germany and Spain.
Yep.
Which is
exactly
absolutely insane.
And Japan would have topped the group. Yeah.
And Japan would have topped the group. Yeah. And, obviously that's not what happened. Costa Rica, unfortunately ended up going out. And so did Germany, and Japan and Spain moved on. But I remember texting friends, and you were in that group, Harry, and we just couldn't believe our eyes, just the fluidity and how dynamic that group was, throughout that game, both games. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So,
and it was fine margins, right? That Japan
very
game.
fine.
On
Yeah.
our last pod, we actually, if you haven't listened to it yet, it's what are the basic rules of football? And we talk about what counts as out of bounds or what counts as a goal for a ball to actually be fully over the line. It's not just physically, but if you draw a line straight up from the sideline or from the goal line, it can't touch any part of the ball. And that mattered so much in the Japan. They had actually an onside, I believe, for Croatia, and that's how they tied versus Croatia and went to penalties. And then for the game against Spain, they barely kept the ball in play from the out of bounds line and from the touch line, and they scored a goal after that. So it's by the finest of margins, which is crazy.
It is, yeah. And the balls this year have sensors in the middle of them.
we go.
And so you can actually see them charging up the balls before the game. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Most surprising moment, I already kind of touched on it, but I think it had to be today when Morocco beat Spain in penalty kicks. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw Spain miss 3 penalties in a row. I mean, it just...
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, like we talked about it, but the odds, I mean, experienced players like Sarabia hitting the post, Busquets getting his shot saved, and then, the cool, calm, and collected Moroccan team just put it away. And, the stands, and I saw images and videos of, back in Morocco, everyone just going nuts. And I think that was just such a beautiful moment. And, it was really why we love to watch the game, right? We love those upsets. We love the passion. And you can really see how much it means to those teams. So, that was just incredible. So that rounds out our most entertaining moments and surprising moments. Harry, any last thoughts or, words going forward?
Yeah. So we have 4 matches left. Obviously, if you're following along for the World Cup, definitely take advantage. It only happens every 4 years. You're not going to have a World Cup every year. That takes a little bit of the magic out of it. Everyone's waiting multiple years to see their country go be represented at the World Cup. So definitely take advantage of this time. Andrew, let's round it out and close it out with some predictions for the quarterfinals.
Yeah, let's do it.
So let's give our winners for each of the games. There's only 4 games. There's only actually 7 games left for the World Cup. So we've got the quarterfinals, semifinals, there's 2 games there, and then we've got a final. And then actually I believe we have a runners-up game.
We do, yeah.
Yes,
a third place game, yeah.
Yep, so a third, fourth place game. So we've got 8 games left then.
Yeah.
So that being said, let's just predict the quarterfinals, and then the next pod we do will actually be after the World Cup, going over the World Cup. So it'll be after the World Cup. So we'll summarize who won and all that stuff. But going into the quarterfinals, Andrew, England and France, give me your winner there.
That's a tough one. I think it's going to be France. I think Mbappe and Olivier Giroud, I think they've really been on it. And, we've seen this England team, Gareth Southgate, their manager, he's been tinkering a little bit. We've seen real flashes of brilliance from, players like Jordan Henderson, Phil Foden, Jude Bellingham has really been a bright star. But I think France have just really hit their stride and hit their form. How about you?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go France. I think solely because of how dominant they've looked. And as a team, they look like they're more convincing than England. England,
they do.
They certainly can attack, and they've got a lot of star power as well. But in terms of just how convincing they are going forward, and if you can count on someone to get a goal, it's Mbappe out of everyone in both countries. Let's move on to Morocco versus Portugal. Andrew, give me your prediction there.
It's going to be Portugal. I think, unfortunately, the magic will hit its end, and the storybook will come to a close for Morocco. Great run. I just think that Portugal today looked like an incredible team. And whether or not, conspiracy theory, whether or not it's because Ronaldo's not on the field, I don't know. The internet seems to think so. We won't go there. But all jokes aside, they looked really, really strong. Harry, Portugal or Morocco?
I'm going to go Portugal. I think Morocco just doesn't have enough to stand up against the firepower of Portugal. Today against Spain just couldn't find that goal, that incisive goal to seal the deal against Morocco. But I think Portugal's got just too much going forward for Morocco to handle. So I think Portugal will win that game. Next up is Netherlands versus Argentina. Andrew, who do you have winning that matchup?
Oh, man. That's a tough one. I think I have the Netherlands.
Wow.
I know. Yeah, it's tough. I think against the US, they really showed how clinical they can be. I worry a little bit about the tactics of Argentina and whether or not they can put it together. They do have, obviously, Leo Messi and a lot of talented players, but I don't know. I could see this game going to penalty kicks, honestly. I think it could be fairly evenly matched. Harry, I know you have Argentina winning it all. You think they'll come out on top then?
I think Argentina. I have to say yes, of course.
Yeah, you gotta say it.
Stay with my prediction. But I think what's gonna convince me that Argentina can take that game is the back line of Argentina have looked good so far.
Yeah, they have.
They've let in only a few goals, and they've got a good rotation of experienced players as well as really tenacious players. One player that Andrew and I both admire is Lisandro Martinez. He's just he's got that dog in him. So I think Argentina, as good as the Netherlands are going to be, Argentina are going to pull something out from somewhere. They just have to sort out their striker situation, which Lautaro Martinez, he missed too many good chances that last game.
Yeah,
so,
he did.
So I still think Argentina are going to take it, but I can see it going either way.
Yeah.
And then last game, we have Croatia versus Brazil. Andrew, give me your prediction there.
It's got to be Brazil. Croatia is a good team. They're gritty. They really fight hard. I think Perisic, who plays for Tottenham Hotspur, so shout out all of our Spurs fans out there. He's played really well this tournament and has shown that, age doesn't really matter, as have a lot of other players. But Brazil, man, they're just a wrecking ball right now.
Yeah. I think Brazil looks so good. I mean, if I didn't predict Argentina in the beginning, I would absolutely go Brazil. They look fluid on the ball. I think they're the team I keep talking about throughout this podcast, just being so pleasing to the eye, so majestic. And I think they're going to go really far. Obviously, based on our predictions, based on Andrew and myself, our predictions, we have France, Portugal, Argentina, and Brazil going forward. That means Argentina, if those results come to pass, Argentina will actually play Brazil, which is a very, very big matchup against two South American countries.
That's the heavyweight fight we've been waiting for.
Exactly. And then France versus Portugal, which will be pretty that will be a juicy matchup as well. And a lot of people would love to see Portugal and Argentina in the final. a lot of people would love to see Brazil and France in the final. So either way, we're going to get a very entertaining last 8 quarterfinals. That is the overview of the rest of the World Cup. Andrew, any final thoughts before we close out our pod for today?
Enjoy. This. Yeah. I feel very sad that we have no games tomorrow. It'll be a goal drought, and definitely an off day. We're recording this on Tuesday the 6th, so Wednesday the 7th we have no games. But when it picks back up later this week, try to find some friends, try to find some time to sit down and watch the games, because it will not disappoint. Harry, you want to take us out? Any closing thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, World Cup happens once every 4 years. Enjoy it. If you're not into football or soccer, you're just getting into it, definitely take moments. If your nation's not in it anymore, find friends or just pick a nation and just go all out, cheer for them. It's just a special time. And again, surrounding the circumstances of the nation it was hosted in, obviously not ideal circumstances, but the World Cup itself has been nothing short of entertaining. It's been a lot of magic, a lot of upsets, a lot of nations giving it their best. And I think it's just a great representation of ourselves as the human race. We put it all out there. Again, after the game, we shake hands, we come together, and that's the best that we can ask for. And it's just an incredible time seeing all these nations intermingle. 32 nations in one place. Very, very few events in the history of the world you get to see this happen. So definitely take it all in. 8 matches left. Try to catch as many as you can. And that's all that we have for today. Hope you as the listener enjoy the rest of the World Cup. This is the 2022 World Cup. And if you're listening to this after, hopefully you can go back on YouTube and watch some of these replays that Andrew and I are talking about. We're living this in real time, so it's very fresh for us. But if you've missed this one, definitely go back on YouTube and check it out. That was today's episode of the Super Subs with
Andrew
and Harry. Tune in next time for a deep dive into everything about offsides. So we recorded an episode about offsides, and we're actually going to be delivering that next week. So everything in terms of the history of offsides, all the way into different scenarios on when a ball is offsides or a player's offsides and when a player's not offsides. So definitely don't miss that one, because that is going to be one that you can share with your friends, and definitely have bragging rights about finally learning this mystical, magical rule of offsides. But other than that, subbing out for now. Catch you on the next one.